Hey guys, what's up? MurderofBirds here, and this review is actually a few days late, like 2 or 3 days late, I think. And my internet was actually been out for the past few days, and I've just got back to starting work again, so my schedule is a little hectic. But yeah, this is gonna be my review for RWBY Volume 2, Episode 8. And it was actually a really awesome episode. There was a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of setups for what's going to happen as the series progresses, and maybe even in the next volume as well. And a lot of priceless moments, especially with Blake and Zwei, which I will get to him in a second. The war is actually something that's foreshadowed heavily, especially during Ozpin's speech of, the greatest war that's ever happened is in the past. And, we've grown from it. And there was a lot of things that were at stake. But I feel like that was just an emphasis of that's the longest and most greatest war in recorded history. But I feel like this war is going to be much more immense, much more devastating. A lot more is going to be at stake, and a lot more people are involved with it. You have the White Fang, which were a byproduct of the past war, referenced in Volume 1. And you have the creatures of Grimm. You have Cinderfall and her accomplices. You have Dust and Torchwake and all of these other things that we still have no idea what's going to come of it. But I feel like this is definitely going to be a bigger war, something that's going to be a lot more at stake than just art and self-expression and individuality and diversity and all that stuff that Ozpin mentioned in his speech earlier this episode. And speaking of Ozpin and Ironwood are definitely creating some internal conflicts with one another that I feel are definitely going to be a detriment if at the end of the day they decide to do their own thing their own way. At the end of the day, these two guys have the same idea. They have the same end goal of protecting the world, protecting their kingdoms, one another, staying united, and, protecting the world essentially from those who conspire against it. You have Ozpin, who wants to handle things tactfully. It's the Vital Festival. It's a time of peace for one another, and he doesn't want to he doesn't want to wreak havoc and panic among the general public by displaying this type of actions that Ironwood's looking forward to. You know what I mean? Ironwood's a lot more forceful. He's a lot more assertive, being a general, and he just wants to just go in there, go to the southeast of Vale, because they now know where the White Fang are operating. Go to the southeast of Vale with all of his forces and just clear them all out in one fell swoop. In a sense, I feel like he is paranoid too, because they don't know what the White Fang or what Cinder or any of them are planning. But at the same time, they themselves, if you don't know what they're planning, you don't know the opposition. They're just thinking in a worst case scenario of, okay, rather than them preemptively striking us, let's just take them all out at once. And Glinda actually gave Ironwood a low blow, if any of you guys noticed, because Ozpin cut her off, but she was like, everything you do is a military bravado of measuring blank. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not going to obviously say it, but if you can just fill in the blank, it's clear what she was going to say. And I think that was a really low blow for her, no pun intended, in the sense that she just, it's like everything that Ironwood does apparently is, just a contest of power and military force. And I feel like that's why she doesn't really like him or doesn't get along with him. Or maybe that's why they had their struggles in the past. Maybe them two were even a thing. And now it's just like, oh, you were different back then than you are now. Everything you do now is just military strength and all that stuff. So right off at the bat, this war is definitely something that's putting a lot of internal conflict and turmoil on, internal friendships of Ironwood and Ozpin and Glinda, and as well as, essentially this entire war is going to be something that Team RWBY is going to slowly bring themselves into, and it's just going to change them all as time goes forward. So right off at the bat, the war was definitely something that hinted to set up as the series progresses, and maybe not even, it might start this volume, but I don't think it'll kick off until the next volume. And heavy foreshadows that this war is going to by far blow out all of the other wars out of the water, especially the one that Ozpin mentioned in his speech this episode. But from there, let's talk about Zwei. I want to talk about Zwei, okay? I fucking love Zwei already, and everyone of Team RWBY loves Zwei. The community loves Zwei, and I feel like bringing a dog into the series is just a different type of uplifting of the series, because, yeah, things are getting dark, things are getting serious, but when you have this innocent, playful dog who just wants to just play around and have fun, it just warms your heart to just know that. And not just that, but the interaction. And actually, let's talk about Zwei's introduction, okay? Yang and Ruby's father, which his name was mentioned as Tai Yang. Yang was reading off the letter, and she mentioned at the very end, love Tai Yang. So Yang's first name is her father's last name, which I think that's pretty cool. And now that we have a name, I'm wondering if his face will actually match his name, if you're able to actually mentally picture Tai Yang and what he actually looks like. So and that's another thing too. They have different mothers, same father, so it's like you have to put their characteristics the same. Is Tai Yang gonna look? Does RWBY look more like her father, or does Yang look more like her father in that reference? But other than that, he sends Zwei in a little cylindrical package, and it's so funny. The comedic value was so funny because he comes out in the same form of that package, and then he flops out into his original form, and then it adds even more comedic relief when we realized the contents of that package, which was all of his dog food and the equipment and all that stuff. And I thought that was extremely funny. And all of a sudden, boom, everyone just blows up. Yang's just chilling there. You got Ruby's like, Zwei! And she has like that entire little animation scene to herself, which that's also going to be my thumbnail. And Weiss. Let me talk about Weiss real quick, because at first Weiss was trying to come off all like assertive and it's like, yo, this mangy mutt's gonna live, and then she all of a sudden her entire demeanor just switched, like, oh, you're gonna live with us forever and I can't wait to see you, we're gonna be best friends, this, that, and the other. And that got me thinking of maybe in the past, kind of like how she told RWBY in Volume 1 she always wanted bunk beds as a kid, but she never got them. In this same sense, maybe in the past she wanted a dog. Maybe she wanted a pet for herself. And, you know, her being a Schnee, being the heiress of the company, and obviously she has a lot of, people expect a lot from her and expect her to live a certain way and act a certain way and uphold the Schnee name, which is one of the main reasons why I feel like she's not really that close with her father. And maybe in the past she wanted a dog, but her father was like, no, you can't. You're a Schnee. You don't need a pet. You need to act assertive in the way that I want you to. Maybe he's just a very aggressive person. So that's why I feel like she connected and clicked with Zwei right away. It's like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted a pet, kind of like how she always wanted bunk beds. And when she finally got them, she told RWBY, she was like, oh, I'm so glad I got bunk beds. Maybe she also wanted a dog. And that's probably why she's just so happy-go-lucky in love with Zwei right off at the bat. Blake, I got to give credit to Rooster Teeth because they have been able to flesh out Blake's development of being a faunus since her reveal in Volume 1 of, okay, Volume 1, she's executed as a faunus, as a cat faunus. How could we capitalize on that and make, you know, jokes about it as we go along that appeases to the fans? So at first they had RWBY make that reference in Volume 1 of she really likes tuna a lot. So it's like, okay, obviously cats like fish, cats like tuna. And then they just amped it up in Volume 2. The laser pointer, which was freaking hilarious. You know, she's like, oh, I'm trying to do my work, and then this laser pointer, and then it was Yang, and then they went off and did their thing. And then this episode of introducing Zwei, cats and dogs, mortal enemies, all that stuff, and you just see how Blake reacts to it. She reacts the exact same way as a cat does. She jumped on the bed, she was like clawing at him, she was like, keep him away from my belongings. And then when they all left, she like jumped off on the table, just wanted to stay away from the dog. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was so funny. And I'm wondering if they're just going to make more ways of fleshing out Blake, of the joke of she's a cat faunus, of maybe like a yarn scene or someone scratching her ears and then she just like starts purring or something. I thought that'd just be so funny. But Blake definitely is the butt of every joke so far of this season and of this volume, and it's really funny. It's really awesome. And I'm wondering if maybe down the line her and Zwei will be buddy-buddy. But moving on from that, I want to talk a bit about Zwei in particular, because there's just something in my stomach that makes me feel like Zwei, as a cute, lovable puppy dog, is a lot more. There's a lot more than meets the eye with this animal, for multiple reasons. Okay, and I'm gonna come at you guys with something right now. Just hear me out, okay? I think Zwei is a baby Grimm. Now, before you click unsubscribe, before you click dislike, before you leave my video, hear me out, okay? This is the first time we've ever seen a domesticated creature, a domesticated animal, or pet rather, of the series. Yeah, I can understand we don't have the internal family lively, you know, lifestyle settings of the series, so it's kind of hard to tell, you know, what life is like outside of the schools or anything like that. But just the fact that RWBY and Yang have a dog at home just brings a lot of questions of, are there creatures out there besides the creatures of Grimm? You know, are there pets? Are there dogs? Are there cats? Not just faunus, but like actual cats, actual dogs, you know, actual animals that can be owned as pets. Another thing that makes me feel like he's a Grimm is his color layout. He is black and white. He's got a little bit of brown underneath his arm, you know, on his coat, underneath his arms, or his legs rather. But the fact that he's black and white just makes it seem like, okay, the Grimm are usually black and white. Yeah, also the Grimm are the source of are manifestations of anonymity. But here's my take on that. What if they found Zwei when he was like an infant, like like a newborn, and they took him in and domesticated him to the point where he's not vicious and he's not a Grimm and he's not a detriment to humanity or society, and that's why they have him as a pet. Maybe they're the only ones who have a pet because they managed to take him in and train him and domesticate him to where he's not like a freaking like a destructive, deadly Beowulf. And I say Beowulf because he's a dog, and dogs are descendants from wolves, Beowulfs, obviously. And I don't know. I just feel like that's what it is, or maybe that's an allude to something. Or if he's not, then I'm completely wrong. Then that's just my wishful thinking. Also, something that I could kind of support it. It is a little subtle detail, but I noticed it of Ruby's take of Beowulfs. She has a Beowulf on her PJs. When she got knocked out in volume 1, she had like stars and Beowulfs around her head, and also she has like the little face thing that you put on your eyes when you sleep, so in the morning the sun doesn't wake you up right away. She has that as well, and that's also in the form of a Beowulf. So in my head, I'm thinking, Beowulfs are evil. Beowulfs try to kill people. Like, why are you so into Beowulfs? And maybe it's because Zwei himself is a baby Beowulf, and maybe he hasn't grown, he hasn't matured yet into like a giant wolf. But he is a small dog, and that could play a role in maybe they trained him to where he's a combat dog, because Ruby eventually took him, put him in his backpack, which, by the way, Rooster Teeth merch advertising this episode, they actually have those Beacon Academy backpacks, which was a cool way of them incorporating that and putting that as a little bit of an advertisement in the actual series, which is pretty cool. But she put him in her backpack, thought about it a bit, like, okay, I'm going to bring Zwei. Instead of, because I doubt she was just like, oh, Zwei's going to be here by himself for a whole week. No one's going to be able to take care of him. Let me take him with us, for fun. She knew that they were going on missions. She knew that the dangers were going to be present. So I really hope she's taking him there to be an asset than a liability. And I really hope down the line Zwei doesn't die, because I'd be heartbroken. To me, I feel like if a creature or an animal dies in an anime or a movie or a show, it's way worse than an actual human. I don't know. I feel like I'm just more in tune with creatures, of them being, helpless and without the aids of humans with them. So that's Zwei for me. Love him to death. I am going to name my first pet that I get for myself Zwei. Probably not the same type of dog. I think it's a corgi. Corgis are the types of dog, or the one that he's referenced to. Also, if Zwei is a reference, because I feel like Zwei is a reference to the Rooster Teeth members, or an Easter egg or something like that, to like Monty or the crew or anything like that, let me know, because I feel like it is. I think I've actually heard of Zwei before he was actually revealed. So from there, I just want to mention real quick that the World of Remnant segment also was a reference to this episode during Ozpin's speech of the kingdoms being united and coming together and staying focused. And, these first-year huntsmen and huntresses are going to uphold the peace and order and prosperity of the world, which is why, they're there in the first place. And right off of the bat, you notice that these 4 different kingdoms, though they're all united, they're all different. They all come from different cultures, different walks of life, and different social upbringings. And you notice that right off the bat with their attire. You saw Mistral, Vacuole, Atlas, and Veil. Atlas had the white, very futuristic, very militaristic type of attire. You have Mistral, which is where Neptune and Sun is from, but it was already revealed that Sun is from Vacuole, but he lives in Mistral. He moved to Mistral. So right there, Mistral's attire, very suit and tie formality. You see Neptune's attire, and you can definitely tell that he's from Mistral, especially with their formal black attire for their school uniforms. Vacuole, which is where Sun is originally from, you can put him in that completely, because their attire was more casual. They had t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, skirts for the girls. So right there, they're much more casual. They come from a much more casual background, at least for their attire. And then Veil was just Veil. They had their school uniforms, nothing too fancy, nothing too out of the ordinary. So right there and then, you could definitely tell that these people come from different backgrounds just from their attire alone, which I think that's phenomenal. I think that's really cool of how they mentioned that they put that in the episode. And if you noticed it, then it's something that's definitely something to be noticed. Moving on from there, I mentioned this a little bit, but the whole expression of self-expression and art and individualism that the previous war was founded on, or that's what they fought for in the previous war. Ozpin mentioned that the names of the people for the next generation were named after colors, but that's only Team RWBY's case. If you look at the rest of the teams, Team Juniper, Team Cardinal, and maybe even Team Coffee to an extent, you can see that their names are referenced to different things. Team Juniper is reference to historical figures, reverse gender. So, for example, Jean Arc is referenced. His name is from Joan of Arc, which was an old warrior woman, but that's the reverse gender. Jean's a boy, she's a female. Joan of Arc, Jean Arc, right there. Team Cardinal is their team names, or at least their names themselves are referenced after birds, and Team Coffee is referenced after sweets, sugary sweets. You have cocoa, which is chocolate, velvet cake. Yatsuhashi, which is an old Japanese type of treat. And the only thing that throws that off is the fourth member, which his name is Fox. So it's like, okay, Fox. But I'll get to Team Coffee in a second. What I want to talk about and brush up on is their missions. Now, Team RWBY's going on their missions. Ozpin, did his little headmaster work, and I feel like Ozpin's just the coolest dude ever. Like, he's so chill, so laid back. He's not strict. He's not, he has a lot of faith in Team RWBY, and I feel like Team RWBY is his little espionage group of, hey, go and get this information for me so I can forward my plan, so Ironwood isn't freaking trying to do things on his own. So I really like how he's all buddy-buddy with Team RWBY. He's just like, screw it, we'll bend the rules for you guys, but, you guys better act on it because I'm depending on you guys. He has a lot of faith in Team RWBY, especially I feel like he has a lot of faith in RWBY in particular, and I feel like he knows a lot of things about RWBY's past or RWBY's lifestyle in general. And, the fleshing out of these two will definitely expand as the season goes on. But the missions is what I want to talk about, because I pulled up a lot of the missions. I wrote some of them down. They have a lot of different types of missions, which is pretty cool. They have the Search and Destroy, which is the Grimm infestation, the high Grimm activity, which is what RWBY and them are going to do in the Southeast. That right there, and I will also reference this again. Velvet mentioned that their mission took a week. It took a week's time because there were so many Grimm. For any of you guys who have watched my previous videos, I want a World of Remnant segment dedicated to the classifications and specifications of Grimm. And in this episode, the fact that there are missions bent on high-level activities of Grimm, and the fact that Velvet expressed that there were so many Grimm during their mission that it took them so much longer, and they were just their teen, their second years. I feel like there are just so many Grimm out there that we have yet to see, and it would just be so awesome for the next World of Remnant segment, which is after episode 10, if we can get a World of Remnant segment based on the Grimm. And there's also going to be a fourth World of Remnant segment that's going to be exclusive to the Blu-ray and DVD versions of Volume 2 when it comes out November 5th. So I'm really hoping at least one of these, because we have the King Taijutsu, we have the Borbatusk, the Beowulfs, the Ursa, the Deathstalker, and the Nevermore. We only have 6 right now, and the Nevermore and the King Taijutsu, I feel like those are really top tier type of Grimm, where you'll see them every once in a while. The Beowulf and the Ursas are the most common. The Deathstalker, probably another top tier, and then you have the Borbatusk, which those are probably situational. You probably see them in a specific area. So I just think fleshing out the creatures of Grimm would just be so much better, to the point where right now we have the fact that there are so many other Grimm out there. Capitalize on it, bring some more into the bring some more different diversity, different animal types into the mix. I think that'd be really great for fleshing out the world of Grimm and making it seem like Grimm are a lot bigger problem to handle than just the 6 classifications that we have right now. But back to the subject, back to the topic at hand, the missions. They have the Search and Destroy, they have Search and Rescue, which obviously you have to search for people or items or anything like that. But one of the ones that was really cool that I liked was the Escort, where you escort families when they move from one kingdom to another, which would mean that I feel like when Sun moved from Vacuo to Mistral, his family probably went through something like that of, having an escort mission of huntsmen and huntresses accompany the family, protect them and their belongings as they move from one kingdom to the next. And that just means that if you're moving from one kingdom to the next where you need escort to that grave length, the creatures of Grimm must be vast, and there must be so many out there, to the point where I'm just thinking, off the top of my head, what kind are there? What type of animals are they referenced after? Are we going to get a dragon or a unicorn type, or I don't even know, a horse type? Well, unicorns fall under horse, so idiot me. But I don't know. There's just so many different types. You can take real life creatures like rhinoceroses or stuff like that, or even mythological creatures like dragons or something like that. I think that'd just be so cool. But just the fact that there are missions that escort families from one kingdom to the next, and I'm pretty sure Sun's probably gone through that since he moved, like I said, from Vacuole to Mistral. That's pretty cool. Another one that's really awesome, and also this is another World of Remnant segment from last week from the Kingdoms, is the village security. Now, it was referenced in the last World of Remnant segment with the Kingdoms that there are nomadic tribes and small villages that live outside of the walls of the Kingdoms of Vale, Vacuole, Atlas, and Mistral. for them to have village security, obviously if you live in the kingdoms, you live in a city, you don't live in a village, and the villages are outside the kingdom walls. So that would mean that these nomadic tribes or these small villages seek aid from time to time from these huntsmen and huntresses, probably due to high Grimm activity or anything like that, obviously village protection. So I think that's pretty cool that, you know, hopefully we see these nomadic tribes. Hopefully we see these small villages, as Team RWBY is going to be going outside of the kingdoms right now into this unforgiving world of Grimm and nomadic tribes that move from place to place. It'd be so awesome if we get to see this, and I really hope they're doing this as a reference to the World of Remnant segment that we just got. And then also they have perimeter defense, which is like the wall repairs to keep the natural barriers of their kingdom safe from Grimm, of course, and any other forces that conspire. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. You know, the missions that they have. Just going to bring up one last reference, which is Team Coffee. I'm so glad they're back. I'm pissed that they missed the dance, though, because they just got back from their mission, and everybody else is just leaving for missions, which means they're going to probably get very little rest and relaxation. But we got like a semi-introduction of them. Velvet, we got to see her debut armor, which was actually a fan win. A fan actually submitted that drawing. They did a contest, and a fan of the series actually won. And that armor is pretty badass. I really like it, and it's a debut for her since her volume 1 of, you know, being picked on by Cardin. She's a second year now, and she was greeted by Blake, which I think that's pretty cool. Obviously, they're both faunus. They get along well. I wonder if she knows Sun yet, or if Sun has met her, or if Sun's going to actually try to hit on her because she's a bunny faunus, or a faunus in general. I think that was pretty cool. Yatsuhashi was mentioned. He's also one of the members of Team Coffee. He's that big giant dude that was right behind Velvet when they were walking back. They didn't mention or introduce them, but Coco and Fox were also mentioned. And if you take these names into consideration, their team name, their theme of their team name is based off of sweets. Coco being chocolate, like cocoa, like hot cocoa or anything like that. Velvet cake. Yatsuhashi, which I did a little research, and Yatsuhashi is an old type of Japanese sweet or Japanese treat that they used to have. And Fox is the only thing that throws off that team comp or that team theme, because it's a fox, it's an animal. So, like I said, they just got back from their mission. It was a week overdue because of the fact that there were so many creatures of Grimm. Please, Rooster Teeth, capitalize on the creatures of Grimm. And the very end, oh my God, Professor Oobleck is going to be the freaking huntsman that Team RWBY is going to be shadowing during their mission. And I'm so hyped. I'm so freaking hyped, dude, because in the volume 1 of the Blu-ray commentary, the director's cut with Miles Carey and Monty hyped up Oobleck's weapon. He was like, I can't wait for fans to see his weapon. I can't wait to see his weapon, because we already know what type of person he is. He's the history teacher. He's zipping back and forth. You know, he drinks a lot of coffee. I'm wondering what his semblance is going to be and what his weapon is going to be more than anything, because they're going in to fight Grimm. So they're going to be in action. We're going to see Team RWBY do their thing. But right now, I want them to showcase the one professor we haven't seen his weapon, you know, or anything like that. Professor Oobleck. I want to see if his coffee has anything to do with his semblance. Maybe he has to be well caffeinated in order for his semblance to work, because he zips back and forth all over the place. Like, his speed is that of RWBY's, or even exceeds that. And his weapon also. Like, how does his weapon work with his speed and anything like that in between? But I'm so hyped. I'm looking forward to everything. They're going outside of the kingdoms, do new environments, hopefully new Grimm. Everything, just everything is going to be boss. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for next week. But like I said, I'm sorry, you guys, for this review coming out late. I really do appreciate any of you guys who definitely took the time to watch this, even though it's been like 3 to 4 days since the episode. Leave a thumbs up. Leave me your thoughts on my review, or what you guys thought about the episode. What do you guys feel about Zwei? What do you guys feel about, you know, the foreshadowing of an upcoming war or anything like that? The missions that they're going to be going on, the outside world, outside of the kingdoms, all that stuff. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate that as well. But that's all I've got. Thanks for checking out my video, and I will catch you guys next week. Take care.